In this video, we're talking about the 4 must-know skills, the 4 must-know pillars that you want to develop as an artist, as a musician, as a producer to continue to level up your craft and to become more unique as an artist. Hey yo, it's Alex from Men of My Music, and as always with this channel, it's my mission to help you, the artist, produce themselves by developing their mindset, expanding their creativity, and connecting to their art and their music in a deeper way. And in this video, we're going to talk about the 4 core pillars that you want to develop to become a better musician, a better artist, a better producer, and really carve out your own path towards making something unique, something uncopyable, something that is uniquely you. And there's a ton of different stuff to learn within music production. There's a lot of skills that I won't mention in this video, but I want to cover 4 of what I feel are the pillars to not only music production, but music in general. Being able to express yourself through the art of making music. So a useful way to look at music in general is to break it down into its key elements. Teach my students this model that I formed around how to break down music into 4 different core elements. And in this video, we're definitely going to go deep and expand that thinking because we're going to talk about correspondence and how it can be useful to help you expand your awareness and your thinking around a subject. All right, so if some of the metaphors don't click or don't make sense for you, don't worry, just come along the journey and see if there's anything you can extract in terms of insights from some of these correspondences. All right, so the way that I look at music with this model, and keep in mind, this is just a model, this isn't reality, it's just a way to look at it. The way I break down music is in the 4 ancient elements that you'll see with like ancient alchemy and old school medieval times, where there's earth, water, air, and fire, right? And I connect those 4 to rhythm, bass, melody, stroke harmony, and dynamics. And if we go one layer deeper of correspondence and thinking about ourselves as humans, those 4 elements, those 4 core pillars of music connect to the body, the physical body, emotion, thought, and the soul. All right, and this might sound pretty out there for some of you, but stick with me because there's some really cool parallels, some really cool metaphors that we can extract by looking at music in this way. If you can master these 4 elements, become a wizard at them in your own unique way, there's not one way to do this, I can assure you that you will make mind-blowing music that turns heads. All right, so let's start with number 1, the idea of rhythm. And rhythm is the pulse that moves your music through time. It's the heartbeat of your song. And if you really think of all these elements, if they were going on a trip together, the rhythm would be driving the car, okay? Rhythm would be the driver of the vehicle and all the other elements would be doing shenanigans in the back. If you zoom out and think about the core elements of rhythm within a normal piece of music with a drum beat, the interaction of the pulse between the kick and the snare could be seen as a metaphor for an actual heartbeat, although a complex one at that, but it's really the pulse of the piece of music. Everything else is kind of oscillating and moving around this core pulse. All right, so now let's get into the interesting stuff and talk about some of those correspondences, the metaphors I mentioned at the beginning of this video. And the reason why I associate rhythm with the body is because rhythm and the beat of a song is what we dance to. All right, it moves the body. If you've ever been to like an EDM show or even a rock show, everybody is nodding their heads or moving their bodies to the rhythm of a track. It's what moves the body. A groove or rhythm really pulls you in to being in time with this specific pulse, and everything else in the music does the same thing along with our bodies. A good groove and a good rhythm really has a push and pull to it, and it really has a gravity. It pulls you in to being in that time space. And if a track has no beat to it, it's essentially floating in place, right? We're not driving forward anywhere. If we don't have any percussion loop or any kind of backbeat or drum beat or any kind of rhythm in general, it's going to be like more of a meditative floating track. If we stretch this association even a little further, we can connect rhythm to the body, okay? And body can be connected to the element of earth. And if we think about earth, earth is what is the foundation. It keeps everything together. So just like our physical bodies are the vessel for our thoughts, for our emotions, for us to navigate around in this world, the same thing with the earth element. It's the foundation. It is the driver. It is what allows everything else to exist in something to move forward. And keep in mind that all of these elements are interconnected, but it's just a way to look at it by isolating the other ones. But everything has rhythm to it, okay? So whether you're talking about a melody, a bass line, a vocal phrase, the syllables, they will all have rhythmic elements to them. Even a waveform, a synth patch, or frequencies are based in rhythm because we have compression and rarefactions in any kind of sound wave, right? And there's a rhythm to it. And that's essentially what frequency is the cadence of how fast a frequency is going up and down. I encourage you, the next time you come up with a beat or a percussion loop or a rhythmic idea, try to connect it to the body, like stand up when you're making it, maybe dance around. How does it really make the pulse of your music change? Or how does it reflect on the other elements in your piece of music? And if you want to learn more about the foundations of counting rhythm, different time signatures, how to map it all out, the music theory side behind that stuff, check out this other video that I've made diving deep into discovering rhythm. Let's move on to number 2, which is bass. And bass is the glue between rhythm and melody. Okay, it's the musical anchor for the harmony of your song. Bass corresponds neatly with emotion because we can actually physically feel bass. We feel the bass in a piece of music. And let me ask, if you've ever gone to like a crazy show, a crazy concert, and you're right in front of the speaker, the PA system, you can legitly physically feel the bass frequencies moving through your body. Okay, so it's connected to feeling, to emotion. Often when you change the note that your bass instrument is hitting in relation to all the other harmonic elements in a piece of music, it will drastically change the color and the mood of the harmony. This is the power of bass. Everything else in your song, your melodies, your chord progressions, anything else like that is anchored to whatever note the bass is playing. And depending on the style or genre of music that we're making, sometimes we actually just feel the bass more than we actually hear it. So if you're working with 808s or heavy subs in your music, you're going to be feeling that bass more than you're going to be actually hearing it. And I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm listening to an awesome piece of music and I notice the bass is gone, and then when it comes back in, I can feel it viscerally in my gut. I can feel when bass comes in to a piece of music. I don't know, I just feel it. I don't know, it's just easy to feel the bass in a lot of music. So let me know, do you feel bass or does it hit you emotionally more than other elements when you listen to your favorite music? Let me know in the comments down below. Fun fact, if you record the audio of a heated argument between two people, okay, so you record the audio of two people like going at it and having an argument, and you take that recording and you filter out all the high-end frequencies and you just leave the bass, you're not going to understand what they're saying or what they're arguing about, but you will definitely know that they are arguing. And the reason for this is that the bass of our voice carries the emotion. So even if you can't hear what someone is saying, let's say they're in another room and you can't actually understand the words they're saying, you can get a sense for what emotional state they're in because the bass is what carries that emotion, right? So if people are fighting in another room, you'll know that there's something going on over there, even though you have no idea what they're arguing about. And to stretch this even farther and to just jog our imagination, emotion can be tied to water, okay? And because water is life, everything that's living in our world needs water, okay? It's the source of all life on this planet. And water in general, it ebbs and flows. It has tides. It goes up and it goes down. And it has massive power and weight to it when it wants to be. So water, just like emotion, can be very calm and serene, but it can be violent and intense at the same time. So it really has the whole span of emotional qualities in how water can interact in this world. And again, emotion is life. If we didn't have emotions as humans, we'd essentially just be biocomputers, okay? And that is not fun. That's not life. That's not what we are. Our emotion and our desire and our feelings is a core part of who makes us up. And it's a core part of what drives us to do the things we want to do in life. And just like bass in music, the bass is what's driving the whole piece of music forward in an emotive direction. If you want to learn more about bass and how to structure bass lines and how it affects everything else in terms of harmony and melody, I highly suggest that you check out this video about intervals that I did on Push 2, going deep into understanding how intervals sound and how they interact. Let's move on to number 3, melody. So melody is the part that you hum. It expresses and communicates a message. So if bass carries the emotion of what we're trying to say, higher frequencies carry the thought. And melody is often the thing we remember from a piece of music, right? It's the story that was told that embeds itself in our mind. It's usually the thing that gets stuck in your head is a really catchy melody or really catchy melodic phrase. So essentially, melody is about communicating ideas. It's about communicating thoughts. And that's why I associate it with thoughts. When we speak, we talk in melodies. Our pitch goes up when we're excited, typically up an octave. When we're super excited about something, our voice goes higher in pitch, and it goes down in pitch when we're more serious and we really want to make an impact with what we're saying. This expressiveness is the essence of melody. Even when we're in conversation with friends, with family, with anyone else that you meet, your tone and your expression will have a very big impact on how what you're saying is being received. You might have experienced this in life many times where somebody communicates with you and says words, and the words they said weren't the problem. It was the way they said it to you. It was their tone of voice, their expression, their mood, the attitude. And that has a lot to say with how we express ourselves and communicate ideas. And this connects perfectly to music. There's a reason why we work with melodic phrases, musical punctuation, and musical structure, because music is a language. And what do we use language for? We use language to communicate ideas and express ourselves. Okay, so that's again what thoughts and melodies are all about. If we think about musical parts, things like trills, bends, hammer-ons, phrases, other accents and ways to express yourselves are all expressive ways to deliver ideas. You could see the notes of a piece of music as being the words, and then how you play it as being your tone and your expression. And just like the broader context of a topic or a conversation, your chords, chord progressions, and bass are in constant communication with your melody. So depending on what language you're speaking with all those elements together, a single note can have multiple different meanings. And I tied this idea of melody, thoughts with the element of air. And the reason is because we need air to breathe. We need air to speak things into the world. And ideas are quick and fleeting, generally, right? They storm in all directions. They come from all angles. They're quick and they go everywhere, just like wind. I think there's a reason why it's called a brainstorm when we're exploring as many possible ideas in any direction as we can in a really quick amount of time. It's a kind of a storm of thought. Sometimes it could be a calm breeze on a nice summer day, and another day it could be a crazy hurricane that's knocking down cities. Those are the extremes of expressiveness with the same core element. If you want to learn more about constructing cool melodies and the music theory behind them, I've also created a video going super deep into the music theory behind melodies and how to craft melodies in your music. You can check it out in the card above. Number 4 is dynamics. And this is one of my personal favorite ones. And what I think is super, super important to make amazing music is having a sense of dynamics. And dynamics at its core is the human touch, right? It's the changes in temperature and mood over time. And it's usually what separates music that's been completely programmed in computers versus something, say, like playing an instrument or capturing a performance. So for example, this could be the difference between a programmed drum beat with little to no velocity changes versus recording the feel of a live funk drummer. This is why I personally always love to play with dynamic, expressive instruments versus always using static sounds. Hence all the guitars, the push-to, the bass, etc. And of course, everybody's different. The whole essence of this video is to jog your thinking as to how can you express yourself and explore these different elements in your own way. Maybe you don't have to play guitar, you don't have to play bass or instruments, but maybe you can manipulate samples in a really cool way. Or maybe you're like a ninja with your MIDI keyboard. So if we continue our trend of connecting these musical pillars to these ancient elements, well, if we think about fire, it's always changing and extremely dynamic. Fire is starting and ending at the same time. It's super trippy. All that to say is that it's extremely dynamic depending on how much oxygen it has, how much fuel it has to burn. It can be a roaring flame or it can be just simmering embers. Fire in general is super temperamental. Like it can be super extreme and like go really intense really quickly, or it can be pretty nice and chill and keep your house warm in wintertime. And it could parallel the energetic changes of your music over time. When music has fire, it's usually extremely dynamic, but we don't call it fire. We usually call it soul. And soul, the tension of release of connecting to something you're creating that has meaning to you and sharing that with other people, and they find meaning in that on their own personal journey, is the essence of making music. And dynamics in general is something you can't put your finger on. Like, yes, there are structures and frameworks that we can use and follow to help us become more dynamic. There will never be a formula or a theory that will explain how humans create meaning and purpose in their lives. It's pretty magical. It's ethereal in nature. And I personally love that. It's a magical part of who we are. It's really tough and damn near impossible to program the dynamics of a human, though we can definitely emulate it. And although this will vary greatly amongst different genres, some genres are made to sound more computer-based, more robotic, and some genres are meant to be more soulful and more expressive and dynamic. Regardless what genre of music that you feel pulled to make, I invite you to see and experiment how you can inject yourself into the music a little bit more. This element doesn't actually produce sound. It's more of the approach. It's more of the how behind something like song structure, performance, or what creates movement in a piece of music. And if you really start to zero in on dynamics and start observing dynamics in some of your favorite music or the music that you feel moved by, you'll notice that it comes in many forms. It could be something like a chill verse going into an explosive climactic chorus, or it could be like subtle instruments and layers while you're watching a movie that's pulling your ear and feeding the narrative with something. And hey, if you've been making music for a while but aren't getting the results that you want out of the speakers, or you're not feeling like you're expressing yourself with your art at the highest level that you could be, I've created a free masterclass that will help you refine and develop your creative process so that you can finish more music, create those radio-ready releases, and unlock your art to a whole other level. And I've jam-packed it full of actionable insights that I've learned on my 15-year journey in making music. So if you want to check that out, you can find it in the link below. And let's talk about the fifth element, the hidden one, the quintessence, the ether, the inspiration behind your actions, which is exactly what the fifth element is. If you think back to this kind of slightly RPG, ancient wizard, medieval perception of the four elements, it's not supposed to be all the elements that we know in the periodic table. It's more of a qualitative essence of reality, right? The interaction of different essences that we experience in the world, not only around us, but in our internal world. And the fifth element in that kind of perspective is what is called the quintessence. Okay, so it's the ether. It's the space that allows the other elements to exist in the first place. You could tie it to the fact that the atoms that build our bodies up and the world around us are 99% empty space. So it's the space that allows everything else to exist with it. It is the potential energy around that envelops those four elements. And in this case, with making music, it's what inspires you, right? It's what drives you to want to create something, to want to express yourself, to want to share it with others, to go after your dream. So I invite you to just meditate and think on what is the thing that inspires you to continue to drive forward, to continue to make music and express yourself and connect with others and discover new, cool, amazing sounds. If you got value out of this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to stay in tune for the next MetaMind Music transmission, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'd love to hear your perspective on the kind of thought experiment that we went through in this video. Did any of it click to you? Did anything kind of stick out? Was there any ahas? Did most of it go over your head and didn't really make sense and connect with you? Either way, I'd love to know in the comments down below. And with that said, I will leave you and love you, and I will see you in the next video.